Hello all, and welcome to Behind the Seams with your narrator Jay from the Drunks on the Pond podcast. If you're new here, welcome. This series is about bringing players and their stories back to the light and giving them another chance to be heard. In this episode, I'll be diving into a man that they called the meal ticket, or King Carl. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these stories and would like to see more, please make sure you subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and comment who you would love to hear about. Baseball's had plenty of storied careers, and I'm going to do my absolute best to keep these coming. Now let's get into it. Carl Owen Hubbell was born on June 22, 1903 in Carthage, Missouri, to a mother named Margaret Dell and a father named George Owen Hubbell. He was one of their 7 children. Something about the early part of the century and the love of baseball had families out here just trying to procreate their own starting 9. Gotta respect the hustle and the poor mothers. Anyway, though he was born in Missouri, he grew up on a pecan farm near Meeker, Oklahoma. In high school, Hubbell was a pitcher for the high school team where he exhibited a plus fastball, an okay curve, but he hadn't yet utilized his most devastating pitch. I'll let you guys wonder what that pitch could end up being. After graduating from Meeker High School, Hubbell went to work for an oil company, but he knew he was destined for bigger things. In 1923, he joined Cushing of the Oklahoma State League, where he would begin his organized baseball career. In 1925, he garnered attention from scouts as he pitched to a 17-13 record with Oklahoma City of the Western League. You'll come to understand that the early part of baseball had a lot of leagues. Like, it wasn't just the American and the National League we have today. Like, there were leagues in just about every state, every county, every township. Like, baseball saturated this country. I'll get back to it. During that time, he began to work on his new pitch. Remember that pitch I mentioned earlier? Well, if you had guessed the knuckleball, you would be wrong. The pitch he developed was the screwball. He came upon it while looking for a way to make a pitch sink, which is crazy because when you look at the pitches we have now, a lot of pitches sink. I mean, you have the sinker, the splitter, 12-6 curve. I mean, the list goes on. One of the teams that realized the potential in Hubbell was the Detroit Tigers, who always seem to make an appearance in these behind the scenes. Pitching coach George McBride and player manager Ty Cobb were enamored with Hubbell, but had one strict rule for him: get rid of the screwball. The pitch he loves the most, get rid of it. Cobb was worried about the injury possibilities that were always at risk due to the pitching motion that came with the screwball. Carl agreed and was ineffective without his signature pitch. After struggling, Hubbell was sent to Toronto of the International League, where he once again was asked to not throw the screwball. He struggled and lost the confidence he once had while throwing his favorite pitch. Hubbell went 7-7 in Toronto. After spring training in 1927, he was once again demoted, but to Decatur of the Triple I League. The Triple I stands for Illinois, Iowa, India. Simple enough. Though going 14-7 with Decatur, the Tigers had seen enough and sold him to Beaumont of the Texas League. I told you, a lot of leagues. Being demoted as a young kid could have, terrible after effects. It could take away your love of the game, it could lead you to overthinking what you're doing wrong, and could ultimately lead to your departure from the game. Luckily, Beaumont manager Claude Robertson, a former catcher, saw the potential of the screwball and let Hubbell off the leash. Hubbell struggled while trying to readjust to throwing the pitch again, but after gaining control of it, he was dangerous. He kept the ball low and in the strike zone where it was the most effective. By midseason, he had 12 wins, and the big boys in baseball couldn't help but notice, including one New York Giants scout, Dick Kinsella. Dick had been in Houston for the Democratic National Convention and, needing a break, decided to take in a Texas League game in which Hubbell was pitching. After 11 innings, Hubbell unfortunately took the loss, but Kinsella had seen enough as he called Giants manager John McGraw and told him all about the screwballer. McGraw wasted no time and bought Hubbell for $30,000, and he reported to the Giants midsummer of 1928. July 26th, Hubbell made his first career start, and it did not go as planned. He lasted less than 2 innings, and the Giants would end up losing 7-5. Though taking the loss, McGraw encouraged Hubbell, and 5 days later he would get his first major league win in a relief effort for starter Freddie Fitzsimmons. Hubbell would have his breakout performance in St. Louis a couple weeks later, in which he came in the 3rd inning in relief and held the Cardinals until the 15th inning when they would end up winning the game. In that game, Hubbell broke out the screwball and left St. Louis hitter Chick Hafey whiffing at the pitch, leading to the strikeout. Giant catcher Frank Hogan saw the power of the screwball and told Hubbell to keep throwing it. He would. For the next 15 years, Hubbell would keep that pitch in his arsenal. He finished his rookie season with a 10-6 record and a 2.83 earned run average. Solid numbers for a rookie. Over the next 4 seasons, he became a great starter for the Giants, giving them a 67-46 record. In that span, he pitched an 11-0 no-hitter against Pittsburgh at the Polo Grounds. As well as Hubbell pitched, John McGraw was growing emotionally tired. Although they won 10 pennants, 3 World Series, and finished in 1st or 2nd, 21 out of 29 seasons of him managing, they hadn't won a pennant since 1924. It's been a while. McGraw couldn't be trusted to run the Giants any longer, and in 1932 he was replaced by Bill Terry. They ended up finishing 6th, and Hubbell pitched to an 18-11 record that season. In 1933, Hubbell was fantastic. He pitched a handful of masterful performances, and he finished with a 23-12 record with a 1.66 earned run average, and he pitched 10 shutouts, leading him to winning the National League MVP and helping the Giants to win the World Series, in which they beat the Washington Senators. In 1934, the Giants were on their way to another pennant until they hit a bad slump and unfortunately were overtaken by the Gas House Gang. You may know the Gas House Gang better as the St. Louis Cardinals. As sad as the season was, Hubbell did something so memorable at the All-Star game that year. He struck out 5 consecutive future Hall of Famers: Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, Al Simmons, and Joe Cronin. Nobody had ever seen anything like that. In 1935, it was a depressing year again for the Giants, as they once again blew the National League pennant to the Chicago Cubs, who had won 20 games in a row that year. Despite this, Hubbell was still effective, as he won 23 games that season. In 1936, though, Hubbell was dominant, leading the National League in wins, earned run average, and winning percentage, leading him to a 2nd MVP trophy. The Giants would return to the World Series that year, but unfortunately ran into a Yankees team led by Lou Gehrig and a rookie by the name of Joe DiMaggio. In 1937, Hubbell led the Giants again in dominating fashion, as he led the league in wins and strikeouts on a return trip back to the World Series, where they would unfortunately run back into the Yankees and lose yet again. Those damn Yankees. As dominant as Hubbell had been, he had been keeping a very, very dark secret. Being a left-handed pitcher, Hubbell's screwball had been practically defying nature. To throw the pitch effectively, he was twisting his wrist to the right, which would break down and left to right-handed batters. Although devastating to batters, it was more devastating to his own elbow. Hubbell later admitted that around 1934 he began to hurt his elbow, and by 1938 the pain had just become unbearable. In 1938, the Giants were leading the league, but like the past had slipped out of contention, and in August, Hubbell had to leave the game with his elbow in serious pain, and a couple days later he had a bone chip removed, which unfortunately ended his season. The next 5 seasons Hubbell pitched, but his past dominance only made faint appearances. He almost pitched a no-hitter in 1940 against the Brooklyn Dodgers, holding them to just 1 hit. He won 8 straight games in 1942, and one of his last games he pitched another 1-hitter against Pittsburgh. Hubbell chose to retire at the end of the 1943 season. 253 wins, 154 losses. A career earned run average of 2.98, 9-time All-Star, and a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame, class of 1947. The first National League player to have his number 11 retired by the Giants. After his career ended, Giants owner Horace Stoneham immediately appointed him to the position of Director of Player Development, a position he would hold for 35 years. Even after the Giants left for San Francisco, Carl and his wife continued to live in Haworth, New Jersey. November 21st, 1988, Carl Hubbell passed away from blunt force trauma due to a stroke that caused him to lose control of his vehicle and crash into a lamppost. He is interred in Meeker, Oklahoma. He passed away at the age of 85 years old. From being a pitcher that lost his confidence in the minor leagues, to being in the Hall of Fame, 2 MVP awards, and making sure no Giant will ever wear the number 11 again. Have a career, Mr. Hubbell. Thank you very much for tuning into this episode of Behind the Seams on Carl Hubbell. I'm glad that I was able to bring his career and life back to the light so that he may never be forgotten as one of the league's most dominating pitchers of his time. Thank you very much to Society for American Baseball Research and Baseball Reference for the information that was used to help create this video. My name is Jay, and I will see you all in the next episode. Cheers.